We go always go in his family at this house here.
Privacy. Okay. It's funny enough. Back in these days, anyway, but you just went right in and made your house.
Yeah. Now you know.
Yeah. Here's the, you can see the basement now.
All right. On behalf of James Ellen White, I would like to welcome you to their home.
Oh, this is.
Now, they had this home built for them in 1856. They lived here for 7 years, moving out in 1863. Now, while they lived here in Battle Creek, though, that Ellen White was told every woman's dream. She was neither to cook nor she to clean. She was to hire help to do that. She had more important things to do for the church. She had book right, she had service to prepare. So at 5 o'clock in the morning, the cook come in and start breakfast for the family. Now, one of the things Ellen White had for breakfast is little bit, she called these gems. We would call these biscuits. Now, Ellen White and I would have got along great. I love biscuits and gravy for breakfast. She could have brought the biscuits down to my house, or I'd have brought the gravy up here. We'd have had good breakfasts together. Down this hallway here, the very far room down there is referred to as the meal room or the grain room. The one in front of it is referred to as the buttery, because that's where they churn their butter. That's also where they dry their herbs and vegetables and put their canned goods. Today we would call that the pantry.
Pantry. This is a pantry.
So this is the house of Mrs. White.
No, this is the one of James and Ellen White. Now remember, James lived here too. This is the only house that's still around that both of them lived in. Otherwise, if you want to just see Ellen White's house, you got to go to Elmshaven or you got to go to Australia. I get people quite often go, "Oh, we heard to see Ellen White's house." I said, "You're in the wrong place."
Yeah.
What do you mean? He says, "James lived here too."
James.
That's true.
That's that woman sexist thing, you know.
Yeah,
It's all about women.
Yeah, they both lived here, darn it.
All right, now, when James Ellen White built this house, it was built without a well for drinking water. The neighborhood well was owned by a man by the name of Jonah Lewis, and Jonah Lewis lived a little bit to the south here. Now, Jonah Lewis is like a modern-day Daniel in that he told his barn 3 times a day to pray, but he had the neighborhood well, so the cook would probably send either Henry or Edson down there to get water for drinking and cooking. When James White thought that's a lot of hard work to get water for baths or cleaning the floor and for their laundry. So what they did is they dug a hole in the backyard. Now the original house stopped at that. Original house stopped at that wall right there. So they dug this hole in the backyard, they lined it with rocks, they plastered the walls, and then they ran the rain gutters in here. And this would fill up with nice, soft, sweet rainwater. And when they put the addition on the house in 1861, they went across this cistern, and then they put in the handy pump in here. So they could pump that water out of there for their baths, for cleaning their floors, or for her automatic clothes washer.
Nice.
They still had to get their water for drinking and cooking from Jonah Lewis as well.
So we have to fill up the water here.
With rainwater.
With rainwater.
Rainwater.
They would come in from the
Yeah.
gutters and go in.
Ah.
You know, I grew up on a farmhouse.
If there's no rain, no water.
No, right now there's not, but
No,
normally-
no. During that time, if there's no rain, you cannot have water.
Well, no, they would have it from the well.
They
but
will,
the rain
they will
always
drink.
goes in.
They will drink.
No, they wouldn't drink
No,
that.
they wouldn't drink that.
Drinking water they still had to get from the neighborhood.
That's only
This
for
is just
washing,
for their other
cooking.
needs.
Yeah.
cooking and washing.
And actually, Willie White, the third son of James Ellen White, fell on that when they were digging him. Because he was a curious little boy.
Ah.
Yeah.
Drink water, just like a town.
The farmhouse I grew up in, we used a cistern at our house.
Mhm.
That's where we got a lot of our water.
Interesting.
These are the
Lattice board.
books
I
of
don't
Mrs.
like
White.
this.
Oh, I hate
I
that.
did a lot of remodeling. We put
What is
lattice
that?
board up. This is how they used to build
Oh,
walls. They
good
would put
one.
these small boards up, sometimes put newspaper behind it, and then they would use plaster. And that was the wall. It was a pain to put on.
Wow.
That's how this house is all built, even when they remodeled it.
Meticulous.
You would have to be really good to put plaster in.
Yeah, the crack's really easy too.
Yep.
Now, not only was this the first home that James Ellen White ever owned, it is the only home that all 6 members of their family lived in. Now, they had 4 boys, Henry, Edson, Willie, and John Herbert. But you notice we only have the 3 pictures. That is because baby was born in this house and died in this house.
Ah.
He only lived for 3 months. He died of encephalitis, a mosquito-borne disease, and he's buried 3 miles from here in Oak Hill Cemetery. It is also while they lived in this house that the Civil War was being fought here in the United States. And right directly across that road right there, there used to be huge fairgrounds. That is where part of the Northern Army used to train. Well, Henry and Edson, they used to sneak out of the house at night to march around the troops. James and Allwhite didn't think that was a good thing for their boys to be doing. That's why they sold this house in 1863. They moved out to Maine. There, Henry got pneumonia. Now, back in those days, pneumonia was almost 100% of the time fatal. So Henry's dying wish, he was 16 years old, was that when he died, he'd be brought back here to Battle Creek so he could get buried next to his baby brother, John Herbert. So on resurrection morning, he could carry his baby brother to heaven with him because he thought that nobody else in the White family would be dead before the Lord came. That's so soon they thought the Lord was coming in 1863. Henry's going to be one very surprised boy on resurrection morning. Not only are we to 2020, but now the whole White family is buried out in Oak Hill Cemetery 3 miles from here. James White died at the age of 60 in 1881 here at Battle Creek in the sanitarium. Ellen White died 105 years ago, 2 months ago, out in Elms Haven, California, at the age of 87. Now, they had 2 funerals for her out in California, one at her home in Elms Haven, another at the California camp meeting, and then her body was shipped all the way across the United States by train to Battle Creek, where they had her 3rd and final funeral day on July 24, 1915, was a Sabbath morning, at the Dime Tabernacle. Now, they had 6 young pastors that acted as the honor guard in her casket, 2 were there all times, one at the head of the casket, one at the foot of the casket. Every 20 minutes, they'd switch to 2 of the other pastors. Now, the pastor that had the funeral that day was Stephen Haskell. Now, he'd been asked a month or so previous to her death to do the funeral, because A.G. Daniels, who was the General Conference president at that time, he was still over in Europe. And if Ellen White had died sooner, he would not have made it back. Well, Ellen White held on long enough that Haskell Daniels did make it back, but because Haskell had been asked to do it, they allowed him to do it. And they actually had 3,500 people in the Dime Tabernacle for that service. It seated 3,200, so it was a little over capacity. Got about another 1,000 people on the outside. So when the funeral ended, it pretty much shut down the city of Battle Creek because they had hired every streetcar in town and every horse and carriage they could find to take people from the Dime Tabernacle up to Oak Hill Cemetery. Up there you see the review and herald announcing her death, also the signs of the time announcing her death. This funeral program here was given out about 6 weeks after her death as a souvenir. And far right, there's a book called In Memoriam that has many of those facts and figures that I just presented to you. Now, a little side note here on S.N. Haskell, that at one time he asked Ellen White to marry him. After James White had died, she'd been a widow for a while. Haskell's first wife, Mary, had died. He came up to Ellen White one day and said, "Ellen, the Lord has shown me we should get
Who
married."
died first? Mrs. White or James?
James.
White died.
James?
Yeah.
Because 1915.
He was 1881. Well, Ellen White, she said the Lord hadn't shown me the same thing, no thank you. So he went and married somebody else and she remained a widow. Now, it's also while they lived in this house, in 1858, James and Ellen White were on a preaching tour of Northern Ohio. March 14, 1858, it was a Sunday. They were at a place called Lovett's Grove, Ohio.
How old her? How old?
How old was she at that time?
Yeah, when he died.
When he died, she was about 50. She was only about 50 years old when he died. But they were on this preaching tour of Northern Ohio. James White was asked to preach at a funeral. Once he got done with the sermon, Ellen White stood up to console the family of the young man that had died. When she did that, she went into a vision. She's in that vision for 2 hours. When she come out of vision, the funeral continued on the graveyard, and James and Ellen White started making plans to come back here to Battle Creek. 2 days later, they're on a train from Fremont, Ohio to Jackson, Michigan. On this 120-mile train ride, they were discussing the vision that Ellen White had just had and how they were going to publish it. Now, they thought they were just talking between the 2 of them, but maybe somebody was listening in on their conversation. When we got to Jackson, Michigan, Dan and Abigail Palmer, who were the first converts to the state of Michigan, came to the rail station to pick them up to spend the night at their house. Well, Mrs. White and Abigail Palmer were in a room talking together. Ellen White had a stroke. She was 40 miles from home. She never thought she'd live to see her kids ever again. They had a special prayer. She recovered enough that James White got her on the train, got her back here to Battle Creek, and carried her here into this house. 3 months later, she was shown who it was that may have been listening on that conversation, because she was shown Satan had given her that stroke in Jackson, Michigan. Why had Satan tried to given her that stroke? Because he tried to kill her because of the vision she'd had. And that vision was a great controversy. Why would Satan want that book published? It's like we now have the game plan for the other team. Now, when Ellen White started writing that book here in this house, in March of that year, she could write 1 page and have to rest for 3 days. That's how severe the attack was on her life. But by June of that year, she had the book ready for publications, and this is one of the original copies right here. It's called Spiritual Gifts, the great controversy between Christ and his angels and Satan and his angels.
Who's the secretary of Ellen White? The secretary.
I'm not sure who her secretary was here
Oh,
in this house.
this is her,
She had so many different
It's
secretaries,
writing.
I'm not sure who it was
her writing.
at this time.
So during her vision, the secretary will be doing to
No, during the vision, she would wait after the vision, and then she would write it herself, and then the secretary would rewrite it.
This is the penmanship of Ellen G. White.
Yep, that's some of her writing right there.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, the writing, what was this? Penmanship. Oh, a great controversy. A great controversy.
And this is how the great controversy started, in that book right there, that's one of
It's
the original copies.
the original.
And it just
copy.
the book got bigger, and until it went into the,
So this is the original.
that's the original, that was
Oh, my goodness.
right off the steam press here in Battle Creek.
Original, saan ko isa pa doon? Baptismal Christian.
Are there a lot of the original artifacts that are kept in California at all?
They probably got more, yeah, they got some, but there's probably more
The Desire of Ages, this is the original.
artifacts, probably at Andrews University or at the White
The
But,
Great Controversy.
The ones that they got out there
Stick to
would be from
Christ,
that house.
original.
But as far as the
Then,
writings and stuff. that was
Story
fine.
of the Prophets
So this
and
book
Kings.
were printed on that printing press.
One just like that, yeah.
My goodness. That's it.
Yeah, what's really bad is whenever somebody wants to give something to us, you have to do it. Watch that step right there. Andrews University or the or the United States thinks it's important that it shouldn't be burned or anything, they go put it in a fireproof vault where nobody can see it.
Yeah,
Well, I got news for you, it's gonna burn eventually.
yeah.
So why don't they let us show it so people can see it?
Yeah.
And so we have a little disagreement. We did get a whole bunch of artifacts a year or so ago, and it was under the stipulation that they stay here about put on display. Now, when Ellen White wrote the book, oh, this is the in-law part. This is where both James and Ellen White parents spent some time. We're gonna go down here. Watch your step coming down.
Thanks, Daisy. Sit on me.
Did Ellen White have the stereo speaker in the wall?
Oh yeah, you know, and she had
She had both speakers, I'm guessing.
yeah, and she had fiber optic lights and all
Yes,
that.
I figured she did.
Way ahead of time. All right, now everything we walked through until we stepped through that door were additions onto the house before James and Ellen White left. Now we're in the original part of the house. This is where the parlor is. This is where the family would gather, and this is where they entertain their guests. The blue room right here. This is the boys' bedroom. That bed in there is called a trundle bed. We do know they did have a trundle bed. So in a bed like that, probably the older boys would have slept on top. Willie, the third son, would have slept in the bed that pulled out from underneath. This was the original dining room and kitchen until they put the addition on where we came in, and then it just became the dining room.
This is the dining room. Oh, this is white. Isulti po di.
Go ahead and look around here.
Morning dining room, this is white. And this is the bedroom.
Yeah, that was the original dining room and kitchen both.
This is the bedroom.
That's the bedroom, and then that's on the bottom. It's called a trundle bed. So the older boys would sleep on top, and then that would pull out, and the younger boys would sleep on the bottom.
So this is a
Right. And then this was here. This was
This
the
is for the
original
kids.
dining room and kitchen both.
Kids
Before
room.
the addition was put on, and then the addition was put on, and then that became the kitchen. But this was both the kitchen and the dining room.
okay.
When he gets back, then
It's a
we'll,
tiny room.
he's taking care of something real quick.
It's a tiny room.
Well, the rooms weren't built to be real big back then.
Why though?
Well, you didn't spend a lot of time
This is
in
the
your house.
heater.
Back then, you didn't really spend a lot of time in your house. You were out.
This is an old house.
Yeah.
But they are using the, you have still, this one, this is a paper.
That's wallpaper. Yep.
Yes, this wallpaper.
Yep. They had wallpaper back then.
So they have, during that time, they have a wallpaper?
They did. Yep.
Really?
Yep. They did.
I think the real wallpaper is a modern, what's this
No, they've been
decoration?
around for a very long time.
My goodness, this is antique wallpaper because it cannot be, Huh?
Yeah, they got boxes in every house. He's coming right back in.
But we cannot be in here because
Here's
we
gonna
have
be
the
one of the
bathroom.
original Bibles.
Huh?
One of the family Bibles are right here.
Maybe that's the original Bible, no?
Well, that's one of the family Bibles that were here at the house.
Ah, yeah.
So,
Mo na yung Biblia nila dire sa ilang balay ni Mrs. White. Ang dako ang Biblia.
Pero dili mo na
Dili na mo ang original pa.
dili mo na
Not the living room, that's the dining room.
isip nila.
that was the dining room and the kitchen.
And there is a piano, the old piano of Mrs. White. This one.
I don't know if that was hers, but he'll let us know when we come back.
Di ikaw.
You had a question about the piano?
All right, now, that's Ireland. Henry White, the third son of James L. White, he was very musical. And when they first lived in this house here, they had to sing everything by a cappella, no music. So Henry and his three brothers, well, actually, John Herbert was too small. They raised the garden. They sold the fruits, the vegetables, and seeds until they raised $100. They bought a melodeon, very similar to that right there. Now, that was not the original. And that was huge because the initial price of the house had been $500.
Wow.
So to buy a piano for $100.
Yeah.
Sige,
Now, that, it doesn't have anything to do with the whites, but we think it's kind of special because 5 years ago, if you were down at the General Conference in San Antonio, Texas, the last Friday night at the General Conference, they had an old-fashioned hymn sing to a melodeon. That was a melodeon that we played at the General Conference.
Nice.
They asked us to bring one down, and we thought we would bring one on the way home. Now, the anniversary of this right here, this is the only piece of furniture that we own that James L. White owned in the whole village. Now, it's from this time period, so technically it could have been in this house. We just don't have that proof. We just have the proof that he owned it. We might have bought a used furniture later on. People say, well, why don't we have more stuff from that time period? They thought we would have it. Why would they have kept anything around? That is just a baby Bible. That was only 11.5 pounds. The one Ellen White held in 2 of her 4 visions was 18.5 pounds.
So this is 2.5 pounds?
11 pounds.
11 pounds.
No significance.
ito ang video mo yun.
This is called a day bed.
Yep.
Oh, dear.
All right, we're gonna go upstairs to the bedrooms. I ask that you please use the handrail on the way up and the way back down.
Don't
The
fall.
steps are very steep. Yeah, we did have somebody fall a couple of years ago, so we're really excited.
Can you make it upstairs?
Ikaw lang.
No, just mama.
Just mama? All right.
Okay.
And if you want, you can sit in the chair. There's some chairs there if you want to sit. Come
And just
back
in
down.
there.
All right,
Okay.
just make sure you grab a hold of the rail.
Yeah.
Ayaw pa, mahulog ka dire.
This hagdan na rin ni Mrs. White rin. Saka na sa balay.
I'll walk behind you, okay?
Other bed.
Yeah, I'll walk behind you.
Ah, Papa, be careful.
Be careful.
I'm behind you, Mama.
Look at this tiny bed.
You're not going anywhere.
Look at that.
Good exercise for Papa. Good call.
Very stiff. Oh,
Okay.
All right, you come there.
oh, he made it.
All right. And then when we come back down, we have to remember there's a step right here.
Yeah.
Because if you're looking through your phones, you're gonna
Yeah.
step off that step.
This is the way to get out of your house.
That goes into the attic now. But that used to be the back side of the house.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
These are just like the good people.
Oh, this is the,
Yeah, remember?
this is her bedroom?
Bed.
Or the bed?
no, just time period. Time period. All right. Now this bedroom here is Ellen White's bedroom.
Okay.
That one at the top of the steps, that was James White's bedroom.
There.
It's tiny.
Separate
So
bedrooms.
they're separated.
You didn't know she snored? No, what it was more common back in those days for couples to sleep apart.
Wow.
But in this case, it worked out to the benefit of both James and Ellen White. James White, when he was here at Battle Creek, working at the Review and Herald, when he came home, it was to sleep. Ellen White never knew a time she couldn't get up and write. That way he could sleep, she could get up and write. Now, this room of the house is probably the warmest room of the house, both summer and winter. I can guarantee it is in the summertime. But in the wintertime, she not only had her own stove, but she had the stovepipe downstairs also. So this room could get twice the heat. But her health was never very good. So she also had something like this. Now this right here, you can take this cup, you can take some coals from out of the fire, put them in there, and if she's sitting in a chair like that there, she put that on the front, put her feet on it.
My goodness.
If your feet are warm, it makes the whole rest of your body think that it's warm.
Yep.
Now some people say that's a great artifact, but how do you know that Ellen White had one of these? Well, Willie White, when he wrote his memoirs, he said he used to like to come up to his mother's bedroom. And he had a game very similar to this right here.
Marbles.
So as Ellen White would be writing, he'd take his marbles, he'd quietly play with them in the game. Now they would go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, until they dropped out of the end, he'd drop into the cup of the form. Well, then when he got done playing with his marbles, he'd pick them up, he'd put them in a sock, he'd roll that sock up, he'd put it back in the cup, and hide it from his older brothers. They were stealing his marbles.
She's,
Nobody likes to have their
she was
marbles.
He
playing.
lost his marbles.
That's the original.
No,
No, that's
just we actually picked it up from the Amish.
Yeah.
Now this is a bed kind of similar to the one that John Herbert would have been in for the 3 months that he lived, and it's very likely he would have been dressed in something like this. It
Oh,
was very common for little boys and little girls to wear dresses. Boys sometimes all the way up to the age of 3. Now, I showed you where the outdoor toilets kind of were.
uy. That is
Arenola.
Arenola.
That's an indoor toilet.
Yeah.
Mama used that a lot.
Yeah, in the Philippines, you are used to Arenola.
Nobody's used that lately. But this is their nighttime toilet.
That's antique.
And I know what that is called in a lot of different languages. That's why sometimes it's hard to tell the nationality of the people, and you don't want to come right out and say the nationality. So I'll start running through my different names for the chamber pot. I hit it, I see the smile on their face. All right, I know that from there.
There you know what it is.
All right.
Oh, and then she was closer.
Now this is a vanity like they would have had back in those days. They would have made their own soap. They'd have their pitcher of water, their mirror, their place for their combs, place for their towels. And chances are very good they washed all their underclothing out every night, because so they have to have a place to hang those, because both men and women wore nightshirts like that. Probably the only difference was the women might have a
Rinola
little more
ni
lace around
Mrs.
their collars and sleeves.
White. Mana yang
Now the chair right there, that rocking chair, that was given to us by descendants of a man by the name of Mr. Littlejohn. Now Mr. Littlejohn is both the pastor of the Dime Tabernacle
Rocking
and president of
chair.
Battle Creek College. And those descendants said that when Mrs. White would visit the Littlejohns, that is the chair she always sat in. Now I don't know if anything she ever wrote in the chair though. The tabletop's on there just to keep you all from sitting in the chair.
There you go.
And yes, that is Ellen White's closet there. That's all women got as closets back in those days. That's all I'll say.
small closet.
There's a reason for that.
There's a reason, yeah.
They were smart. See?
But they had chests like that down there on the floor. They had very few hangers.
Closet ni kan.
This is some of her writing, yeah, and you can see
Yung may
the
renta na
different.
yung
If you
closet.
go clear to the front, it was when she was 20 years old. When you go to the back, well, this is when she wrote this when she's 60 years old. But if you go to the front, that's what it looked like when she was 20 years old. So she had beautiful handwriting.
This is the handwriting.
Handwritten.
Yan sinulat Mrs. White nga, iya pang edad na 20 years
My
old.
family used to.
Handwritten ni Mrs.
Handwritten
White.
Mrs.
Yeah.
20 years old pa siya. Nya
And my
kini,
wife, she found that at
kini
the,
siya,
I don't remember where she found that.
I got that.
mana siya. Nya
Have you
bili
ever
na
seen
siya
a
sa
colored
mga kuan na.
bifocal on the flip?
I have seen them, but I haven't seen
Kuni
any.
yung mga
I've got some in
sinulatan
my
ang
house
kartika.
Yeah?
Lami siya ang agi, oh.
We were gonna throw it away, and I seen it.
When he was already
Yeah, it was
60 years old,
for
mana
reading.
iyang
And
handwriting.
also for colorblind.
16?
60.
Lenses,
Mana
Ah,
niyang,
60.
and a blue one,
Papa
and a red
paghapon.
one, and you can flip them.
And then,
Nana?
And you change it.
Sige, isulti.
And I've looked at writings and how you look at it, and you could, and a buddy of mine is colorblind. And you put it on, and you go, wow, this really works.
Huh.
But yeah, it's in a frame I had hanging on the wall.
Yeah, it's amazing what people are throwing, well, nowadays, they're not throwing away as much as they used to. It used to be,
Yan
you
ang
know, kids or grandkids would go into the houses that when people die, they just throw everything away. Now they're starting to, there's some value in these.
Now they're starting to keep it.
Yeah. All right, now here in Battle Creek, we don't treat this village as a shrine. We don't treat this room as a shrine. The one thing we like to do before we leave this room every time is have a rededication prayer of our life to the Lord. I like to have one of my guests do that. I like to have them do that in their native tongue. So, Pastor, would you have a prayer for us in what's the language?
Tagalog.
Filipino.
Ano, Bisaya. Okay.
There's 40 dialects over there, I know.
Sige, kabukod.
Apo ba?
So, would you have a prayer for us in Tagalog?
Okay. Among kikalipay, Ginoong Diyos nga nakabot gapon kami sa among katuyuan, sa imong alagad, handumanan sa iyang pagsilbi sa imong bulaton. Nako ang among kalipay nga ikaw nagagiya ka namo diri. O sa gyapon, nagway pa na among mga kinabuhi, dahil kami kasilbi sa imong bulaton. Panini kini nag-guide sa amo, Tayo siya kaalam sa pagtabang sa pag-espekal sa tanan ng mga kaagay sa imong mga inanak. Amo kining isalig ang pagsalig sa ngalan ni Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
And now, if I can have him sign my prayer journal.
Here you go, Papa.
I have prayers from all over the world up here.
Ikaw kay
Ikaw nag-pray.
Your date, the name of your country, your language of your prayer, and then your name.
this is 9/12, correct?
Today is September 13.
Yeah.
Today's the 13th.
9:13.
9/13/2000.
Yeah.
You can put it whatever way you do it in your country. I think the United States is the only one that does it
Yeah.
month first.
Yeah.
Since I've been doing this, I've had prayers in 138 different languages that I know of.
Wow.
Well, there's over 120 dialects in the Philippines.
And is there that? Yeah. Well, that's like Africa too. I had one time where they were all from the same country, but they had all different dialects. I had 9 prayers up here one time with different dialects.
Wow. Want a picture?
Yeah.
There you go. Took us a while with this camera because it counts 1, 2, 3, and then snaps. We didn't realize that we take pictures and walk away.
So you click.
And there's nothing there. See a picture of my cheek or something?
This is, we have a YouTube here. You did project.
Thank you.
All right.
And this is
Yeah, I
the,
had that too where, people
Any
say, well, you
kaban-
take my picture
de-
down there
kabani
at the
ko, ano?
sign. So
This is
I'll
right in.
click the thing and all
ina,
of a sudden-
ina.
Hold on a second, that didn't do.
Let's do it again.
You did it on my foot.
Muna ang kaba ni Mrs. White. Sila nagsinina.
There's nothing there. Then we counted to 1, 2, 3 would show up because it pauses before it shows up. Well, awesome. Papa, I'll go down.
Take picture of those.
Watch that step right around the corner
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
Papa,
This
I'm
is
gonna
the-
go down ahead of you.
This is the,
Okay.
muna ang parto ni
So let
James
me get
White.
ahead of you.
Kani,
Ayan, sama.
sige. Muna ang kwarto ni James
Be
White.
careful.
I'm gonna go down ahead of Papa, okay?
Yeah, okay. Good ano.
Oh, I know.
Agad ba?
What do you got there, Mama?
This the ballpen.
And then the thing is, once we get down there, we can go out the front door. Bring in his family. But you even leave with guests.
Ay. Dira exit dito, dira. Exit na.
Kind of a goofy habit. When I go up steps, I still count on my steps there.
Yeah?
Just
Just
to
so
be-
I get
just to
smoking
be-
on the way back down, you know how many.
Yeah, just for being a farmer.
Ina
I'm always
na
counting
ito
steps.
YouTube ina pareho.
Just a habit.
Yeah,
Taas ka niya.
it's like me, I was a bricklayer for 35 years. And there's things that I still do today.
Yeah.
And it, what are you doing
Well, I
that
can hear noises in the middle of anything. I just.
Thank you very much.
for? You're welcome.
This will
In the
be
middle
the
of
YouTube.
conversation, I'll hear something, I'll turn my head. Stuff never dies. Alrighty.
So we have a remembrance now in the YouTube
Here we go, Papa.
because we're a vlogger.
Papa made it.
Yeah.
Did it.
So thank you very much.
Are we done?
We are done.
We're done.
We are
Yeah.
done.
We'll get you that map to the cemetery.
Ah yes, Wintry.
Yeah, we
Yes. That's right. Okay.
It's an error.
Well, you're just dropping everything, aren't you?
We have a YouTube and my daughter also. So that's why we vlog.
Oh, okay.
Because all his preaching was in the YouTube and all
So you
the.
got any more appointments today?
I don't. Because the one that was supposed to come at 3 o'clock came yesterday at 3 o'clock.
Oh.
Because they thought the last day on that calendar was Saturday instead.
So the whole world will see this.
So what's this house?
That's what we're carrying now.
Huh?
Yeah.
Sakit yung binhod yung bubok.
Saan naman eh? Pati ko na sabi.
Mato patag
Ano sa?
sementeryo. Unya na.
Talk about making it.
Pati sa. Pati.
Patay naman kayo. Wala naman. Wala na may battery.
We'd sell it to them.
May battery?
But how many people are going to have you take their
Wala yung battery di?
cell phone?
Asa?
Palo nga sa. Di palo na.
Ambat, parang dali.
Nga pa yung isa nga cellphone may battery pa na. Yan, hurot na pa. Pero Mati pa man ta sa sementeryo.
Eh, paano na kayo maato na sa pintiri? Mana ta, Pinky? Ha? Asaran? Asa naman? Nakuhaan pa na siya? Di na. Ingna Pinky ko sa ihanan. Kaya mo na ito kaayo.
Dili yan sa paggamit niya kay sa COVID. Sa restaurant lang. Ha? Wala gani.
Magbutang unta sila dire.
Ha?
Magbutang unta sila dire.